We received this evaluation. Are you speaking to this, or?
Yes, I'll speak to it. In your packet, you have a summary of the evaluations from the 5 commissioners on the city attorney services. This was done utilizing the form that you approved at the last meeting. And so, be glad to answer any questions.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reason, Randy, that you would not have been, I know you're not in a position to deal with employment of the city attorney, but as a person that probably deals with him or her on a most daily basis and most frequent basis, I would have been interested as well in your evaluation of this position. I know oftentimes when you have in our office, it's not just top down, sometimes there's lateral evaluations as well, and in the future, not for this one, but it might be something that we might want to consider as whoever the city attorney might be, because Randy is the person that probably interfaces most.
I would have concern with that because I've done that, I've lived that life too, but that and private enterprise is a bit different because it's got private, usually at the peer level, in my experience. Since this is public, I'm not sure that's for the 2 guys sitting next to each other to judge each other's performance. I know Larry, we're not asking Larry to judge Randy's.
Right.
But I just think,
curious about that. So
yeah, I think just on public, because it's a public thing, I think would be. But I appreciate that on a private matter. I just think this would be tough. Okay. Unless Randy wants to.
Well, I personally, even if it's not an official kind of appraisal, I would like to, and quite frankly, I did ask the people that interface all the time how things were going and how they felt about it. I do think that's vital for us as commissioners, because it's not just how the attorney relates to the commission, but it's also how he relates to the planning department, the economic development department, the personnel department. I'd like some kind of personal feedback, and I don't know if it needs to just be verbal, that's fine too. But it seems like that kind of feedback would be very beneficial. Whether I would want to see it in an agenda packet up here, I don't think so.
I'm hearing what Commissioner Liberty said, and that may be just the onus of ourselves if we want to delve into that a little more deeply to actually go and speak to city personnel as we formulate our evaluation. I hadn't quite looked at it from that angle, so I appreciate it.
I mean, I think we should go to city personnel and get their opinions, but I just don't think making it public is a.
I appreciate that insight.
May I have the floor, Mr. Mayor?
Sure. The floor is acknowledged.
In regards to this, I think this is great. I think we have some scores in front of us. What to do with these scores is the next question. And the last, if I recall correctly, we're in the 3rd year. Is that correct with the contract with Brown, Garganese, and August 09? And I think we've spoken in the past about possibly looking every 3 years, and I think it's not just good practice to evaluate contracts with the city at a certain given time frame, whether it's contractors, whether it's architects, engineers, but also perhaps professional services, whether we do it at 3, 5, 7, 10, whatever we want to set. I beg your pardon?
I thought we considered.
I don't think we did come down. I think we just started talking about it theoretically. Should we?
I think we actually voted and put a policy in place, but we could go back.
Well, there are 2,
because I think the
Mr.
only
Leary
2
has
that
the
were
floor,
left.
so we'll let him finish that.
I think we're just trying
So
to
that's a
share
question for
here.
Randy. Did we put in place a policy?
I do believe we adopted something, and off the top of my head, I was curious, is it 5 years?
It's 5
We're
years.
contractors.
But the city attorney and the city manager are technically not contractors. They serve at the will of the school.
Yeah, those
Right.
2
I think we owe it.
still-
I mean, from my perspective, from a fiduciary responsibility, it makes sense to look at it in that regard too. Mr. Brown communicated previously that his organization would be willing to possibly renegotiate fees. You know, I'd like to see, since this is my first go-around with the city attorney, I'd certainly like to see what other city attorneys can offer. I don't know, I look at these evaluations and I see Larry has gotten perfect scores from Commissioner Cooper and Commissioner McMacken. And I don't know how to give a perfect score if I have nothing to compare Larry to.
Yeah, see, I do.
And, well,
I mean, I have a basis
find
of
it hard to
comparison.
believe
I
that
was here a
Larry,
long
as much as
time.
I love the guy, is outstanding in every part of his job. I would like
I think
to.
you just have to sit closer to it.
That's right.
Proximity has some value on this, so it may be.
I would like to see a process where we can certainly investigate an alternate city attorney. But again, I'd like to see the current city attorney apply in the process as well. I just simply like to see what else is out there. I don't know how to sit here and say we're doing the best service to our citizens without knowing what else is out there.
And at the end of 5 years, I would be happy to support you with that. At the end of 3, I'm not prepared. We did adopt a policy, and the policy discussed reviewing these contracts every 5 years. I think in a position where you are dealing with what I consider a corporate attorney for us, a municipal attorney, stability and corporate knowledge is extremely important. I think 5 years is certainly a reasonable period to take a look, and I'm on board with you about that looking. I'm also, quite frankly, on board with you at any point in time trying to discuss compensation with anyone in the city, whether it's our attorney or whether it's a contractor. If we think we're paying too much, then I am always in favor of sitting down at the table to discuss that. But as far as changing and looking at other attorneys, I think 5 years would be the earliest I would be comfortable doing that.
Randy, may I ask you a question from an RFQ standpoint or an RFP standpoint? How long would that process take if I decide to make a motion to go that route?
It's typically about a 90-day process.
Well, then I'd like to make that motion, that we put out the city attorney to an RFQ, which one am I going here?
Probably want to do an RFQ
RFQ.
with prices. You can put, well, I don't know.
Now, it would have to be an RFQ.
You can have numbers in there, but
Yeah.
I think you definitely want qualifications to trump price.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I
But
would
if
like to,
price is the problem, then I think we should start by sitting down to try to renegotiate price, because you're not going to get price when you go out for your solicitations.
you'll have an idea.
Do I hear a motion?
Yes, sir, you did.
You moved for an RFQ for the city attorney, I'll second it. Discussion.
If we, and the tough part of, get the RFQ for a second.
Sure.
You know, we evaluate, in a sense, we evaluate both Randy and the city attorney as they serve it as the will of the commission. There really is I want to say it's almost a bad word, but it's almost day labor. I mean, we hire them daily. We're not under contract with them for any length of time.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently go out, I'm talking off the top of my head a little bit, Commissioner, but you go out for an RFQ and say, okay, we want to bring in or evaluate other attorneys on a same thing on a day, you could be here for a day or you could be here for 3. There's no time, I don't say time certain, but there's no, it's got me a little puzzled, and perhaps I'm just not used to the process of that. And normally on a contract, there's a product or a time or a something, and to say that it's a unique situation we have with, and I have my back to them, I'm sorry, don't have my back either, but that's the.
Would you be more comfortable if we did an RFP?
No,
I don't know if we can.
we have an excellent attorney.
We have a weighted
I'm
score.
sorry, I was talking to Commissioner.
I understand you were, but I'm going to speak for a moment. We have an excellent attorney. We have a weighted score here of 3.68. That puts you at very close to above expectations and certainly meets expectations. Why would you want to do that? I mean, I just have a real hard time. You have an attorney who's been on board for a couple of years. He has served us in every manner. We went through the commuter rail. That was a huge and very trying and not necessarily publicly popular issue where he was able to mitigate liability and come up with something very agreeable to Orange County. He has served us well on the picketing issue. He has been very creative in the tolling agreements relative to any Burt J. Harris acts that we have. He's defended us from baseless threats of lawsuits. And to me, what we need to be is a supportive team. If I looked at this ranking and I had seen a ranking of 2 saying he was below expectations, I might anticipate that someone would want to compete the job. But I truly don't understand, Steve. I'm looking at your specific ranking of 3.21. That's not a bad ranking. So obviously he's doing something that pleases you. We do want stability. We do have a lot of ongoing litigations, a lot of ongoing developers agreements where we need that corporate knowledge. I remember when we talked about the trees, and so you were so worried about motivating people positively. I'm not sure how competing someone's job when they are getting a good score and working very hard for us motivates them positively or makes us a better team.
Well,
That's
I
all.
would expect those comments, seeing that you gave Larry 5s across the board, so I
Because
appreciate
compared
those
to
comments.
the attorney I worked with before here at the city, he is outstanding. There's no comparison. And so for me, I felt very good about that. And I understand, but yours isn't bad either.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that's 3.21. That's not a bad score. Let the man do his job and allow us to have some stability over a reasonable period of time. I'm with you at the 5-year mark to recompete the job. I cannot personally be with you today. I think it's disruptive, and I don't think it's a positive move for the city.
What is the process for doing that? I mean, what do you have to do? Don't you have to do a lot of work to do all that?
Yeah, sure, we would have to put together an RFQ to begin with. We'd start with the one we used last time and then try to update it if there's anything needs to be updated. And then you gotta advertise and receive the proposals and then rank them and make a recommendation.
And that's a 6-week process or so.
It's, I mean, like I said, the
I mean, I'm talking
whole
about
process,
the committee gets to
the
do
whole
that.
process is a 90-day.
Well, who does this? I mean, does it staff?
Well, that's up to the city commission. Last time there was a staff committee with one commissioner that ranked the attorneys and made a recommendation, but then it ended up, the commission ended up sitting as the final ranking committee and made the selection. It does, as you said, it does work.
Meeting, I think the number 6 firm moved to number 1 or number 2.
The city attorney does work for the commission, so you know, there's some logic to the commission being the selection committee if you go there.
So the process that I just heard you describe would be, there would be somebody from staff, we would decide how we wanted to make this move forward, and it would take somewhere between 6 weeks to 2 months to get all that stuff going. Then we would then look at, have presentations, or the committee would, just like an RFQ or
Exactly.
RFP anywhere else.
Exactly.
Okay.
And since there's not another meeting until January 14th, it's 5 weeks away, if the commission wanted to approve the RFQ before it went out, the process wouldn't start till then.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to get, as Commissioner Cooper, you identified, my scores were not bad. I'd like my scores to be 5s. And I'm not there yet. And as I said, I like Larry, I appreciate the work he's doing. I'd just like to see what else is out there. I'd like to see if the city could possibly save money. If the city can see what other services can be offered. There was a process a few years ago. I don't see why this is anything unusual to request the same process again.
How long was the prior city attorney in place? I don't even know, to be honest with you. Well, that's a little corporate memory instability, isn't it? We could, 30 years might be a little longer than I would feel comfortable, but certainly 3 years is way too short for something as complicated as our attorney. So I can't be with you today, but talk to me again in 2 years and I'll be happy to do that.
I'm the only person up here that served with more than one city manager. I'm city attorney, I believe.
I was on PNC with the
Yeah,
others.
you were as an alternate. I think it's, and again, this is, I'm gonna vote in favor of this RFQ only because I think that it's time to look outside this. And Ms. Brown's done us a very, very good job. And what will come from that, and, I do not know it in terms of the process at this point. My concern remains, there seems to be an emphasis on litigation, and I think general counsels provide more than that. So and I'll use our current court case as an example. I'm very concerned as one vote, I was the minority vote in this discussion, but it seemed like all we had was one alternative was presented before us, which was an ordinance that we knew would be airtight and go to the Supreme Court and defend. I was very concerned that was the only option that was placed before us. I think there could have been numerous options. And I don't know if that's legal counsel's responsibility, I don't know if that's the commission's responsibility, I don't know if that's the city manager's responsibility. That's an example of something. I don't know what it took. We're going to be voting on something that we believe, at least has been purported to us by our attorney, to be against our charter. It's taken 3 years for that to come before us. Frankly, after votes of our citizens in 2010 or 11 in terms of supermajorities, and I don't know if that's somebody just asked, I don't know what prompted that. There's a level of proactivity, Mr. Brown, that I would like to see more actively involved in, and that's just, that's why I believe that looking at what else may be available, and if that process makes Mr. Brown a better city attorney with us, and we're working with the entire team, then I'll feel good about that too. So that's why I'm going to support your motion, Commissioner. Commissioner Sprinkle.
Well, I get a chance to talk to lots of lawyers, and I get a chance to hear a lot about Larry Brown. They like him, they respect his law firm, he has a wonderful reputation in doing what he does out there. So I get a chance to hear that from people all the time. So I really am blessed to hear that, and blessed, I feel very comfortable. So when the timing for this, for me, is tough. We're in a very interesting place right now. I don't want to change lawyers in the middle of this, of what we've got going right now with the presentation you just made to us this morning, with that being heard. I just don't think that's a good idea. And so the timing is not great for me. I have no trouble asking people to relook at things every 3 years even, Carolyn. So I wouldn't mind doing this, say, March or April, but I do not want to do this in the middle of what I consider to be a big issue right now. And I appreciated what we got as far as the, unlike what you experienced, Mayor Bradley, I felt very comfortable because we talked about what we were presenting, and I felt very, very comfortable with Mary Brown's advice to us there. Like a lot of other people, sometimes I wish Larry would speak up more, but sometimes I'm glad he doesn't. I mean, it works both ways. And so, I'm married to a judge, so I get knocked down regularly on what I think, so I understand that. No, I got that. I can't do this right now simply because we just had a big hearing this morning that we don't know the results of. And he represented us, and he represented us well. And that judge is going to get back in the next 30 days or so, but I don't want that to go somewhere else. I think that's a really big deal. So the timing for me is not there. And I would suggest that Larry Brown will hold his own with anybody else in town. At least he is with everybody I talk to. So I would hope that whenever we do this, that he would come back with whatever it is that's good. But I'm not ready to go out shopping for a lawyer with what we've got doing right now.
I think my evaluations go for itself.
Well,
Should we vote?
We have a motion and a second.
We've been talking about this for 6 some odd months. I'm happy to at least make some kind of progress here, whichever we go. And again, I want this to be very clear. This is not an implication of Mr. Brown. I've received comments from others too, and I just want to see what else is out there. And if we did move forward with this, I would hope that they would participate in the RFP.
And to be better than what we had before is a very weak argument. I mean, that's.
It's my basis for comparison, that's my only point.
But I'm just saying that's a very weak argument to.
Oh, I could go
argue.
individually
I'm
through
sorry,
all
I
the
have the floor.
positive
Excuse
things.
me.
I'm sorry.
Please don't
That's not
interrupt me,
appropriate,
Commissioner.
guys.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry,
I'm sorry, I have the floor.
But you didn't like my argument, I was
No,
trying to figure out why.
I didn't even use your name, Commissioner Cooper. You interrupted me, excuse me.
I apologize.
Thank you. You know, it is important that an evaluation, whether it leads to a new contract or whether it leads to new prices. By the way, I don't know that our city attorney fees have gotten any less since we last discussed this issue. I think is important, and an evaluation of the merits. We get to do this publicly as opposed to most processes where you do it privately. I'll be very, very clear. I want our city attorney to be much more a part of this team and much more directional with us than reflective upon things that are presented to or her. That is not legal counsel, that's a legal reaction. And legal and other counsel, I think, is something that we need to continue to grow and work on. Obviously, the dynamics of a public entity are difficult, and I get that. But anybody who plays in this court of public opinion has to understand that. So that's just my feeling, and I've spoken with Mr. Brown about this in writing. So. Presented open for public comment. There's a motion on the table unless it's withdrawn. We're going to process.
I'd like to amend the motion. Can I do that at
You
this
sure
point?
can.
I'd like to bring this, readdress this in 3 months' time after our court case that we're involved in right now is hopefully finished, and be very happy to bring it back up at that point, but I would not like to deal with it for 3 months.
So you're moving to amend that the process could begin on or about March 10th? Is that what you're saying? Today's the 10th. I would second that. Is that what you're moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a motion and an amendment then. Not hearing any.
One comment, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that, and in 3 months, Sunrail comes in, and now we're litigating Sunrail. And if 2 months from now, something happens, I mean, there's always going to be something that we can say, changing counsel is not convenient at this time. And that's why I'm going to have a hard time supporting the amendment, because taking an arbitrary date of 3 months, I mean, if this thing gets postponed and this gets moved out, well, what happened in 3 months? Well, we're still hearing the case. Let's push this off for another 3 months. I think that actually does a disservice to the city attorney, and now he's waiting 3 months to determine whether or not he's in the middle of an RFQ. And that was my point of calling you to a vote tonight. I'd either like to move on from this and be comfortable where we are, or call a vote to start an RFQ process and see whether we can possibly have someone else represent us for any number of reasons, financial, quality of representation or something. So there's always going to be something that makes the call of an RFQ for this position difficult.
Okay, further commission discussion? I'll open the floor for public comment if any citizens wish to speak about the motion and the amendment that's before us. Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comment. Now ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
There's an amendment on the floor that the process would begin on or about March 10th of 2013. Clerk will read the roll on the amendment.
Commissioner Leary?
No.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
No,
Commissioner McMacken?
No.
Mayor Bradley?
Yes. Now the main motion is that the process would begin post haste without an amendment. Clerk will read the roll.
Commissioner Leary?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
No.
Commissioner Cooper?
no,
Commissioner McMacken?
No.
Mayor Bradley?
Yes. Mr. Brown, you've heard our evaluation. I'll move that we accept the attorney's evaluation as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. For the discussion, Clerk will read the roll on the motion to accept the evaluation as presented.
Commissioner Leary,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprinkle,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner McMakin,
Yes.
Mayor Bradley,
Yes.